A few months back, I began running again. It had been the first time since the end of summer, and boy was it rough. I gave myself 3 to 4 days a week, typically after school, and the time span of about 30 minutes. I remember the first time I ran an entire mile without stopping and actually felt good while doing it. I remember the odd looks, head turns, that I received as my joy was visibly radiating off my body. I remember how proud and accomplished I felt, even though, to many, it was so small. And I don't doubt many of you are thinking that too. It was only a mile, right? 1 mile, 5,280 feet, 63,360 inches, and the accomplished and proud feeling of one girl. It could have been the immense amounts of stress all packed into the last 4 years, or the realization that my life is going to look very different the next 4 years that made this calm and happy moment mean so much. Suddenly, the weight of the world wasn't so heavy. Class of 2021, we have been through so much. Our world has looked so different these last 2 years, more than we could have ever imagined. I know I never would have imagined having 3 people in my math class or having school virtually in the comfort of my own bed. It was definitely a plus to not have to go to school until noon for 5 months. But the weight of the world seemed to be a little heavier than my arms could hold. Nothing was how we imagined. Our accomplishments turned into task lists for colleges. Our application process was like taking a quiz on a subject we never learned. And with 3 weeks left before we would never go to class at Clayton High again, it didn't feel real. But here we are, class of 2021. We have come so far. From freshman year, walking into a building that felt bigger than we could comprehend, with hundreds of people that we had never seen before, to sophomore year, where our friends were from all grade levels, and this building that was so big began to feel a little smaller. Our junior year, as we prepared for the SATs and ACTs, life at Clayton High School was calm and normal. But in March of our junior year, everything we had known at Clayton High changed. With no friends, no junior prom, and the silence and emptiness of the world lingering, everything was different. Senior year, school began at home. With the start of the application process for colleges, the loss of steady and immediate guidance from counselors and peers seemed to make it even harder. Zoom began to become our new normal. We were isolated, and we were all doing our best to work with what we had. We all struggled for the year, but we did it together, and in that struggle, we found strength. A quote by Oprah Winfrey said, "Where there is no struggle, there is no strength." As we take our next steps in life, remember to be proud of even the smallest of accomplishments. On those hard days, be proud of yourself for getting out of bed, for finishing all your schoolwork, and even for running a mile. On those really good days, be proud of getting the degree, getting the job, buying the house. Be proud of where you go. Ultimately, be proud of what you do each day. Wherever you are and wherever you are going, you will all do great things. And when the weight of the world seems too much, know that everyone here, right now, are all proud of you and cheering you on. We are all going to have good days ahead, and we're all going to have bad days. We're all going to have those in-between days too, and that's okay. Compared to what we've already been through, the future looks bright. As you move through each day, remember it's okay for your accomplishments to be small or grand. It's okay for you to be proud for the big promotion or for just getting out of bed. It's okay to feel strong one day and weak the next. If there is one thing this pandemic has taught us all, we're human, and we're okay. Christopher Robin reminds us, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. So thank you, class of 2021, and Clayton High School for all you have done. I know our impact on Clayton will remain forever, and Clayton's impact on us will never be forgotten. Thank you, and congratulations, class of 2021.
For the past year, we have been forced into a cave, salvaging off of what we had and unable to explore, much like the prisoners in Plato's allegory of the cave. lockdown plunged us into a darkness. The light seemed so far away, and we did not know what it would look like, when it would arrive, or how we could get there as soon as possible. For those of us who did not delve into Plato's writing our sophomore year, Plato wrote an allegory with 3 prisoners chained together in a cave with a fire behind them. Between the fire and the prisoners are people walking and carrying various items, casting shadows. Because the prisoners have never left the cave, they believe these shadows are real, and they become a reality. As quarantine went on, we began to notice things in the cave. We saw the shadows of other countries bouncing off the wall as they exited the cave after reducing their COVID cases. These were the countries who had maneuvered out into the light and were in the stages of a post-pandemic. We could only see their outlines, and we wondered how they had escaped when we were still shackled, disabled by heavy chains, with every new COVID death becoming a new link. Here's what my day in the cave looked like. Wake up 5 minutes before class, brush my hair just in case I've turned my camera on, press the wrong Zoom link for my first class, arrive 5 minutes late to said class, tell my teacher they aren't screen sharing or that they're muted, and repeat these last few steps before collapsing into my bed to celebrate the end of Zoom classes for the day. Sorry in advance to Mrs. Long and Mr. Ryan, but I always looked forward to my second hour class of the day. Not just because I liked the class, but because that was when I would dance around my kitchen, camera off, assembling my extravagant breakfast. As the year in quarantine continued, people began to move out of the cave at different times as they discovered the light away from the chains. Some seniors moved out of the cave when they got a chance to attend a unique prom, hosted for seniors by seniors. Others moved out of the cave earlier when they delved into a new hobby and found joy in something they'd never done before. As sports seasons resumed, some even found their way out of the cave and onto the field. Slowly, little by little, we have taken a step towards the light together. Some have figured out how to be okay and look forward to the next step, and they will have the opportunity to come back for those still trapped, unlocking their chains and guiding them towards the light. I'm not trying to say that Clayton's culture is no longer competitive, but our class has changed the way that we contribute to that culture. We no longer exchange test scores or stress about receiving an 87% rather than an 89%. For colleges, we have accepted where people are going with open arms, rather than turning the entire concept into a competition. We are leaving behind the legacy that Dr. Gachewski always talks about. What once made Clayton so competitive has faded as we became more focused on moving towards the edge of the cave's opening. That being said, as an at-home student, it's taken me a little bit longer to get out of the cave. Like many online students, I often felt very removed from the conversations going on in the classroom. I was seeing the shadows of the people who returned to in-person learning dance across the walls in front of me, but I still had shackles around my ankles and had to remain in the darkness. I mean, I didn't remember what most of our class looked like because they became gray boxes bunched collectively on my screen. I had to create my own escape by reconnecting with friends, planning social distance activities, and altering my typical activities. I also relied on my family. Even though our house never seemed big enough for the 6 of us and our 2 loud dogs, they were always there for me and came up with fun activities when there was nothing else to do. Spending this year with them before moving on to college has been a blessing in disguise. We brought one another out of the cave with movie nights, homemade pizza, and gathering around the fire pit with s'mores. They do drive me crazy, but I'm so happy I've had the 5 of them by my side for this past year and a half. Sooner or later, the pandemic will end, and quarantine will not be a word that we use every day. The world is starting to come out of the cave, into the light. At the same time, our class is emerging into the light, into a changed world. After all of the sadness and struggles that this year has brought for all of us, we are finally together as one and moving on to the next stage of our lives. We are no longer divided by learn at home and in-person students. We are standing together as the class of 2021, and as we walk away from Clayton High School, we will bring all of the learnings from this year and exit the cave. I wish you all the best of luck wherever you end up, and with Greyhound pride, congratulations to the class of 2021.
Good evening, everyone. I remember giving a speech in 8th grade, and the first joke I made was that hopefully in high school, I at least wouldn't be as short. I was mistaken. While you thankfully can't tell because we're recording this, I remain the same 5'2" that I stood when I first walked through the doors of Clayton High School. I think it might be quite an understatement to say that the world in and outside our hallowed halls has changed quite a bit. We got a new parking lot, a new turf baseball field, there are no more cafeteria tables anymore, not to mention a global pandemic. When I was writing this, I kept going back and forth on how to address what has been our last year and a half of high school. On the one hand, I was thinking about how much this virus has taken from us. It has taken people we love, pushed away the people closest to us, and of course stolen so many of the things that gave us joy. But at the same time, I wanted to somehow say that in the midst of all this loss, there is more to the story than our own perseverance and resilience. I think it would be ignorant, imbecilic, and necessant, shout out to thesaurus.com, to talk about how personally we as individuals overcame the corona. Because to fight this horrible, abhorrent, excretiable virus would not have been as easy without a community that gave us the support we needed. I've been going to a Clayton school since kindergarten, and I still could not tell you what the definitive purpose of education is. But the one thing I do know is that Clayton has given me a safe space to explore, learn, and find meaning. So to have been given that opportunity, even during the strangest of times, is quite unbelievable. And luckily, we as a class never let circumstance limit our achievement. This year we had 2 soccer teams beat Ladue in the district final game, for the boys the first time in 7 years. We had a DECA team that sent over 20 competitors to the international level, the most we have ever sent. And we had a school newspaper win national awards because of the quality and nuance of what we as young people had to say in this crazy world that we live in. So yes, this year was challenging, but with determined students, kind and generous teachers, and an administration intent on setting us up for success, how could we let ourselves fall short of anything but the best we could give? Now that I got that over with, I want to somehow think about the road ahead. Senior year is supposed to be like how it feels to drive on Wydown on a sunny Saturday spring morning. No one around and beautiful trees along the way, budding with flowers. But this year it was like driving on Hanley at 5 on a Tuesday night when you have to wait in a line of 30 cars staring at the space gray Honda Civic in front of you before getting past the light just trying to get some Chipotle. That situation that may or not have happened to me last Wednesday is exactly what my brain felt like this entire year of school. Crowded. Just like in traffic, how you don't feel like you're going anywhere, but then you somehow keep inching forward. Yeah, that was our last year of high school. And in spite of that, I hope we never discredit the progress we made. Because figuring those things out, because high school is challenging, because being a teenager is challenging, and figuring those things out from behind a screen 1/4 of the time is even more challenging. So at this point, I like our chances. The other day I was thinking about what Clayton has given me. And the best way I can think about it is like this. Life is like a long hike. Some of the time it's an uphill battle where you're trudging past mosquitoes, you don't have enough water, and then you get that weird pain in the right side of your chest and you think it's heartburn, but then you remember that your heart is on the other side. Then sometimes life is like walking along on a flat road, enveloped by trees, so all you can see is the step in front of you. And then every once in a while, you get to a beautiful downhill, looking out over a magnificent vista. The way I think of it, Clayton has given me the best pair of hiking boots I could have ever dreamed of. The kind that doesn't untie, the kind that's waterproof, the kind that never leads you off course, and most importantly, the kind that you never have to think about on the trail. We as a class have been gifted the luxury of a foundation that will never leave us, because I can't imagine going through the real world, the one where responsibilities of adulthood attack me like Jackson Beeler with a red Sharpie, without having the best education in the world. Because just like on that hike, it's never easy, but it would be a whole lot worse if you had to look down the whole time because you never trusted your shoes. Some people don't get shoes, some are beaten up, and some are uncomfortable. And as future leaders of this world, it's our job to use our blessing and help people reach that glorious vista. As I look out at all of you tonight, Wearing masks and social distancing, I think about how lucky we are to be in a space together, whatever it may look like, surrounded by the people we love, celebrating graduating from a wonderful school. It would be thoughtless, impolitic, and injudicious of me not to thank the people that have made Clayton what it is. So to all the people who have made our experience wonderful, thank you. To the administration who showed us the way. To our support staff, like our amazing janitors, administrative assistants, and campus supervisors, for doing everything that allowed us to focus on our studies. And finally, to our teachers, who somehow willingly agreed to work with us day after day, giving us the most amazing gift of knowledge. So because of you all, when people ask me in 20 years, the St. Louis question, where did you go to school? It will be an honor and a privilege to say the name, Clayton High School.